everybody, and welcome to E-commerce Quick Fix official podcast. Today we are with Liam Fuller. Liam, this is amazing. You're young. With the risk of stating the obvious, you are extremely young. How old are you?
I'm 17.
How are you? How's everything?
Yeah, no, things are great. I think things are great right now.
Yeah, of course they are great. With 17 only years, and you're already a global sensation with an app that you created, which is CartShare.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I've heard CartShare a lot in the last month here in Spain. We are Madrid based,
Sure.
but it's been going around globally. So tell us a bit how does this happen that a group of teenagers are able to develop this amazing app?
Yeah, well, it starts around 3 months ago, so around 12 weeks ago. I've personally always had an interest in e-commerce. So I since I was around 10, I've been building drop shipping stores, building some Shopify apps here and
So,
there.
so sorry, I think I misheard you. Since you were 10.
Yeah, since I was
Oh
10.
my
Yeah,
god! That's the age kids are normally playing with Lego. You were already building drop shipping stores.
yeah. Well, I was trying to. Like, I don't know if they're the best stores, but I was certainly trying to. And yeah, I really got interested in e-commerce and figuring out like on my street, I would typically trade my Pokemon cards with other
Yeah,
kids.
it will be like the normal thing.
Yeah, the normal thing. And then I was like, I realized like I can start doing this, but online. Not Pokemon cards, but like try to build a brand or something like that. Now I was 10, so you can't expect much of a 10-year-old to make a proper ecom business. But yeah, like that kind of just like was the foundation of my kind of introduction into Shopify and building e-commerce stores and sites and how merchants think. And then more recently, around 2 years ago, I turned a year ago, I turned 16. I wanted to kind of get back into doing something in ecom and something in tech because I was building some AI tools when ChatGPT came out. And I was just kind of wondering, how can I get in the e-commerce network in Ireland? So I started talking to merchants in Ireland, getting myself well known, talking to agencies, only from the perspective of networking, and secondly, just kind of understanding merchants' pain points. And two of those pain points that I figured out really fast was one, acquiring customers is expensive and is getting more difficult every single year. And two, converting those customers to checkout is really, really difficult. And there's so many different ways that merchants are overwhelmed in doing that. So I went during the summer, I went into the summer program called Patch based in Dublin. I met my co-founder there, and it's a 6-week accelerator for 16 to 22-year-olds. And the idea is that you have to build a startup, a successful startup in 6 weeks, which is
Wow.
a big undertaking, and we had to compete against other young people who were doing that as well. So I met my co-founder Keith, a lot more technical than I was, and I said to Keith, "Hey, here are the two problems that I found. Let's start thinking of ideas to try solve some of these problems for merchants." And then we started thinking about what were the things that we were frustrated by as shoppers when we were buying online. And Keith mentioned to me that whenever he was buying off one of his favorite perfume stores, a lot of the time he couldn't reach the free shipping threshold of €60. So what he would do is that he'd tell his brother, like, "Hey, do you want to order with me? Do you want anything? Send me on what you want through WhatsApp. I'll add it to my cart, and then we can, you can get what I want, free shipping, etc. It'd be great." So he did that, but we realized there's actually quite a lot of friction there. You have to send the link
Hmm.
back and forth, send it to WhatsApp, your friend will have to send it back to you, then you have to check out, and you have to make sure everyone check out, and you have to keep asking back and forth. So we're like, why isn't there just like a button that you can press that allows you to share your cart so you can just buy with friends in real time, so you can reach free shipping? And we knew it was a problem for us, and after some research, we found that according to a Capital One shopping report in 2024, 26% of shoppers who abandoned their cart was just because they couldn't reach free shipping. So we knew
Wow.
it was like we immediately knew it was a big problem. Built a prototype of CartShare, played around with it a little bit. We started talking to brands like Gym Plus Coffee and some other another big pet brand in pet called Pet Stop in Dublin. Tried just purely on a basis of like, hey, what do you think? Do you think there's a problem here? They agreed there was a problem, and they helped us identify kind of where the value could be. So increasing the average order value, reducing the cost of acquisition, and also reducing cart abandonment, while being able to acquire emails for merchants super easily, so that if you join my cart, Frank, the store gets both of those emails, and you can use that for some really, really cool
So
marketing.
it's also a lead generation tool.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, let me tell you something. Out of the explanation that you were given, just raw like you were saying it, it is freaking amazing. I mean, the whole thing is just incredible. But let's try to put the audience a little bit on the context of what you
Sure.
did and for what solution did you develop this? Because as far as I understand, this is a Shopify exclusive
Hmm.
app right now in this
Yep.
moment. Is this
At,
correct?
at the moment, yeah, it's
At the moment, yeah,
exclusively
but
for.
obviously the thought process can be applied to any other platform. So
Sure.
it's in the future. You have plans in the future to expand CarShare to other things.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of requests from many, many merchants.
Of course, I mean, I'm sure you should have. I mean, because it's amazing.
Thank you very much. And yeah, no, we've been reached out by a lot of merchants in terms of, can this come to Magento 2? Can this come to WooCommerce and Salesforce? And that's something we want to do probably in 2025, towards the end of 2025, because at the moment we know that Shopify is a great platform for us to expand, launch on quickly and expand on quickly, and that's kind of what we're targeting at the moment. But it starts to get really exciting when you can imagine CartShare being on. It's kind of like you know, like Klarna originally. I know they launched on lots of different stores, but our approach is like, let's validate it in Shopify first and get it really, really great, and then you can start to imagine what CartShare could look like on really big stores like ASOS or Nike or any other store that isn't on the Shopify ecosystem, where it's kind of surpassed that. And that's definitely in the roadmap for late 2025, maybe early 2026.
And why did you choose Shopify? I mean, it's because Liquid, it's easy to work with, or what one was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so why we chose Shopify is because, yeah, it was one, easy to work with, and now, actually, it isn't as easy as you might think. Launching, like, you'd think that launching a Shopify app is super super easy. Originally, it was quite difficult, for my co-founder, because he actually didn't know anything about Shopify. I did, so I was able to kind of help a little bit, but he had no clue. Um,
All the coding was done by both
uh,
of you, isn't it?
no, just by my co-founder.
Okay.
He built the entire code base. I kind of deal with all the business side, all the marketing side, but I kind of had a little bit of knowledge to play around with originally. So yeah, the reason why we kind of chose Shopify is that we would know be able to give us immediate access to a lot of merchants, and I already had somewhat of a network with agencies and merchants who were both on Shopify. So we thought, kind of during the summer, 6 week accelerator, or where could this go? And we'll just start a Shopify app and see where we can go from there. So that's kind of our original thought process.
Hmm. Now, just out of the blue,
Sure.
sheer curiosity, you could call it. Have Shopify reach out to you and try to stroke a deal of exclusivity of some kind, or haven't said anything yet?
Um, so Shopify did reach out to us, actually, and not in the context of acquisition or anything, and that would be great. But mainly in the process of kind of just trying to figure out what we're up to, what we're doing, and kind of just have a chat with us. So yeah, we did have a brief chat with Shopify a few months ago, and my co-founder actually got an internship off the back of that. So
Wow.
he's in so he's a bit older than me. So Keith, my co-founder, he is like 20, and so he needs to do an internship as part of his course. And Shopify reached out, and he's going off to Canada for the next 8 months, which is going to be great. So yeah, they have reached out to us for constant, like they've been helping us out with kind of application processes for it to become a public app and all that fun stuff. So yeah, they've been helping us really great, and we're keeping the communication lines open.
That's amazing. I mean, I guess you should have a lot of pressure right now in your shoulders, both you and your co-founder, because this is not an easy thing to do, and especially when it's successful. I mean, you could actually die from success. You know, this could easily fail due to the huge success if you're not able to handle it. Is there any advice that you will be able to share for other entrepreneurs that might be listening to podcasts and say, like, "Hey, I want to learn how Liam is being able to handle the whole thing," you know?
Yeah, and like especially with school, right? Like I
Yes,
still,
of course.
I, I still have 2 years left of school, and I have big exams next. Actually, I have exams next week, and then I have some big exams next year, like my final year exams. So yeah, like it's tough, and like at the moment, it's Black Friday, so for any sort of SaaS / Shopify app, doesn't matter how great you are, it's still really hard to get merchants to use your app, and especially in new technology. So yeah, it's tough, but the one of like the one thing you want to do is you want to kind of just like, obviously we've been having some big success on LinkedIn. We've reached over like 4 million people now on LinkedIn between my co-founder and my posts, and that's really great, and it feels really really good. And it also builds a lot of pressure for the next LinkedIn post, the next one. But the one thing that we've been trying to do is focus really closely on our product, right? With all of the merchants that we're currently working with, we want to be laser focused to make sure that they can provide value to them. Where does CartShare look like, right? Does it look more of like a little Klarna piece of text at the product page, or does it look better on the actual in the actual basket? And we're trying to use a mix of kind of A/B testing to figure all that out. So yeah, basically trying to find product market fit while trying to take advantage of this kind of huge headwind, not headwind, but kind of wind behind our back.
Yeah,
Uh,
your tailwind right now.
Headwind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Could you tell us, like, maybe crunch some numbers that you
Sure.
can say, because I know that many things, obviously for obvious reasons, competitive advantages,
Mm,
even public relation reasons, you might not be willing to share. But
sure.
could you share some numbers behind card share usage right now? Like, how much is it being used? What results are you seeing right now from the app's perspective, of course?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So at the moment, like on a kind of our pilot stores, we're tending to see that like cart share is just doubling the AOV in the cart. So like
Wow.
one person joins. So when somebody does join, somebody usually adds one item, not two or three, and it's usually one person, which is still great for a merchant. Because like kind of in the start of it, we're like, okay, how could this look like for mass group purchases?
Yeah.
And right now, we're seeing kind of one or two people who may be friends jumping in on an order together to increase the average order value. In terms of conversion rate, we're still trying to like properly get a figure out of that with all of our case studies, because
Hmm.
once we put that figure out there, we don't want to be like, we want to make sure it's we're confident with it, um,
Exactly.
and, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. And we have one thing that we've been in terms of the business side. What we've been doing is we've been really focusing on making agency partnerships super early. Like we're a relatively early Shopify app, right? We're private. We're doing private integrations with merchants, which is still great. Which is still great. And we want to use agencies as a great way to kind of help us distribute fast and also introduce us to people. And we found that agencies are super willing to help us, and they've been great partners so far. So we have upwards of 10 of them already, which is pretty good for this starting only 12 weeks ago.
That's great. That's amazing. I mean, that's part of a job that any successful app has to do, and you're already doing it.
Thank you.
Now, regionally speaking, is there any region lock for CarShare, or if a client is listening to the podcast from Germany, from Berlin, they can access CarShare the same way that a guy from Dubai or someone in New York could do?
Yep, anywhere that has Shopify, CartShare will be able to work for it. We
And it's in
actually
the Shopify official app store, isn't it?
at the moment we're doing private
Okay.
integrations, so we'll be launching officially on the Shopify like public app store where anybody can self-serve and set up CartShare themselves instead of having us to do it in January. So towards the end of January, we'll be publicly listed on the app store. As of right now, it's a private integration, so you reach out to us, we set it up on your store within a day, and there you go. You've got CartShare on your store, and there is no regional limitations. Like we're working with merchants based in Ireland, but we're also working with one or two merchants, or will be working with one or two merchants in Dubai and some in the UK as well. So there is no regional limitation, and we actually released a feature recently allowing people to sync with all of your free shipping policies in different regions. So if you have free shipping to the States is $200, you have free shipping in Ireland is $100. Those thresholds will be synced up with CartShare, and we'll know where your customers are coming from. So instead of you having to kind of us having to manually do it for you, so that's yeah, there's no limitation.
That's extremely cool and extremely useful, because nowadays e-commerce are selling globally most of the time, at
Yeah,
least in the European Union,
100%.
and you will obviously have different shipping policies depending on the region for obvious reasons.
Yep,
Like if you're in France, it's closest to ship to Spain than to ship to the UK. Well,
exactly.
whatever. Now, where can they reach out to you? Is this via website? Is this via LinkedIn? How can, if a merchant is listening, how can they reach out to you?
So yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. I have my calendar link right there at the
We're
top.
going to add your profile link, okay, to the podcast description. So everybody that is listening to us right now or watching the podcast in YouTube can go directly there. Is there
Awesome.
a website also?
Yeah, so www.cartshare.store. That's our website. Have our demo up there. All that information is up there. So that's another place you can find us.
That will be also added to the description. Now, Leon, from your perspective, and I'm amazed because I do a lot of interviews per year, like a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I have done success stories for Shopify for the past 7 years. I've done success stories for Intershop. I've worked for Cross Border Magazine, obviously,
Oh wow.
which is this podcast. So I have a lot of interviews in my mind of people that actually is knowledgeable about the e-commerce world. But I'm surprised that with 17 years old, you are pretty knowledgeable and very strong and very difficult core concepts behind how e-commerce works. So I
Thank
don't want to pass this opportunity and without asking you, in your perspective as an expert on e-commerce, what do you think are the most common pitfalls that merchants fall into when
you.
they are trying to be successful globally?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think one of I think one of the things for e-commerce that I'm seeing for a lot of merchants that I've kind of talked to, worked with, is that a lot of merchants tend to get excited about the next new thing, right? You see, I mean, there's some great Shopify apps out there that are doing amazing marketing and are spending a lot of marketing as well. That can be super attractive to the head of e-commerce or e-com directors at these at these brands, and easily convince you to spend $500, $1,000 a month on a cool new tool that doesn't actually provide the results that you want. But maybe the fundamental question that you should be asking yourself is, where are my customers? Where are their touch points? And who are my customers? Because I tend to see that, even from like the very beginning to merchants that might be doing $5 or $10 million a year, a lot of the time there's small teams of maybe two or three people who are building these brands, who don't necessarily have all the time to look at finding out kind of, is this what are the core concerns of our customers and what do they want. And I think that's something fundamentally that's useful to kind of look back on and reset, that I find can be super useful for merchants. So that's one of the main pitfalls I see, is too much spend on cool new tools when you should have a fundamental look back and overview of what you're trying to achieve as a vision. And kind of looping into that is that one thing I'm seeing that's being done really well is content. So brands who are making content and finding a way to make content through Instagram and reaching customers that way, uh, but by building a community, makes it super super compelling. A lot of brands, they might. I see, like, last week I saw a $50 million brand have like 5,000 followers on Instagram. Now that doesn't really add up in my head, right? There should be. I think there needs to be time and time spent on those channels to figure out how can you turn this Instagram and turn these customers into kind of a community, and then from that community, how can you treat that 1 or 2% of those customers who are loyal, who keep coming back to your store again and again and again, while also putting out viral content and jumping on other trends that other brands are seeing. And I just see like huge value in that, because once you have an Instagram that has like 20,000 followers, there's so many different avenues you can take from there, and it also can amplify your reach massively and reduce your ad spend significantly. So that organic content, I think people love to see, and they also love to see the behind the scenes content. I know in Ireland, there's kind of a lot of, you know, there's a lot of great brands who are building kind of this founder led content behind their brand. They're killing it massively. They're not spending a lot on ads. They're spending money on ads later, but they're spending time and effort on building content people want to see. And they're driving insane numbers. So that's kind of a few pitfalls I see that I can think off the top of my head. So anyway,
That's amazing. And if that's the top of your head, I mean, I'm amazed. That's
thanks.
incredible. Now, Liam, you were saying something that it struck me as incredibly powerful and also incredibly true. People are jumping into the trends just out of the sheer will of being part of the trend without actually thinking about if that trend makes sense or not. This, I think, leads into the next question: is that the AI trend?
Yeah,
Everybody wants an AI running their e-commerce and their shop and their stuff.
sure.
Do you think that actually it's a viable thing at this point in time? I'm not asking about the future because obviously we are going that way. I mean, that's going to
Mm,
happen eventually. But right now, do you think brands should be aiming at developing AI solutions, like, for example, I don't know, the AI Copilot that Shopify
mm,
has, or they should be aiming to do the basic things but properly well done?
mm. I so yeah, glad you mentioned that actually, because I love AI. I've been building AI tools for ages, and that's kind of what I spend my spare time on when I'm not hyper focused on e-commerce.
That's your
Um,
hobby.
so 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 um so yeah, in terms of like the back end management of a store, right? That takes a lot of time, and the navigation through, like, although Shopify does a great job at it, the navigation in terms of navigating your dashboard, all the information back on that dashboard, and kind of funneling through all that data that Shopify has for you can be really difficult, and Shopify doesn't always make it easy. And I think Shopify sees the opportunity, and they're actively working on that opportunity to bring, Sidekick directly into Shopify. So I think a lot of that back end management, I think that'll be done by Shopify and be built into their subscriptions. Now, like, in my head, would it make sense to spend lots of money on another analytics tool that is already analytics differently, but another tool that's just breaking down all of it and allowing you to talk to the AI? Maybe, but they're probably charging you too much, and it will be in Shopify pretty soon. So that's what I would say to that. In terms of the front end user experience, because there's obviously two sides to AI for e-commerce, right? There's one, you've got the user end experience and how you can transform that, and the back end, the more exciting stuff for merchants, which is the time saving back end stuff. I think with a lot of the front facing AI tools that are already out there, like it's a credit. Like, I know myself, it's an incredibly massive market. Like, everyone that you can think of is just making something in ChatGPT with ChatGPT, labeling it for e-commerce, and then trying to market that to merchants. And I think it's like there needs to be more time so you can look at, like, how do people actually interact with AI on these stores. I think there is some brands or some Shopify apps that are doing a really great job of this already. That's using a little bit of AI, but also kind of building that in a really nice way to kind of familiar tools that merchants that are listening right now might already be familiar with. So one of them is Octane AI. They're actually an Irish startup, I know, and they basically build customizable quizzes with AI, where you can quiz your customers. That they work a lot with beauty brands, quiz your customers and kind of what their skin tone is, etc., and then do upsells that way. I think that's a really brilliant use case of AI, in my opinion, that I've seen. It's simple. It's not like a massive, wholly built chatbot that users are confused about. It's just something simple that upsells them at the end of it, and you get their email. I think that's an example of something that's already been done well. And there's also other platforms like Shopbox AI, which take a lot of data from your store, analyze it, and provide some new recommendations. So I think the winners in the AI space for ecom is people who are going to figure out how to build in AI into existing themes and existing stores in a very nice and user-centric way. Because there's like a million chatbots out there that's just plonked in the
Yeah,
right hand corner of the store that nobody actually uses, and they pay like
they pay a
500.
lot of money. Yeah, yeah, for that.
It's like
It's
crazy,
insane.
crazy. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
No, that's amazing. You're absolutely right. You have a grasp, an understanding of the industry. That's amazing. Yeah. Now, Liam, for the next 5 years, which ones are your plans? Or let's be a little bit more risky here. Give me your forecast for CarShare for the next 5 years. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so for CartShare, like right now, we're piloting on nearly a dozen stores, and we will be piloting on a dozen stores by the end of the year of various different sizes. I think the biggest we'll be working with is in the 10 to 15 million euro range, which is
Wow.
pretty good for us. We've been mainly working with beauty and cosmetics, and we continue to go down that niche because it looks like it's going to be really, really great for us. Um, so right now we're a private app, so we do private installs for the merchant, set up in 1 or 2 days. In January, we'll be live on the App Store. And right now, what I'm trying to do is build up as many agency partners, along with kind of creating an identity for CartShare. Because as of right now, like, we've built CartShare, it's a cool new tool, but now it's about associating an identity with that, so it becomes familiar with the shoppers, but also the merchants as well, just like how Klarna did it. So what that 5 years looks like is for the following year, it'll be really about launching on the Shopify App Store, going back to our agencies and going, hey, here's 5 case studies, and here's a conversion rate that we represented on this niche, that niche, and this one, and then distribute to hopefully hundreds of merchants by allowing merchants to set up CartShare self-serve, just completely self-serve experience, and kind of start automating that. And then, kind of, if you look to kind of like the next 2 years, it's about getting on kind of those enterprise merchants, right? Because you kind of see the typical graph of kind of Shopify apps. They start with they start with relatively smaller brands, and as they expand, they start to build out their pricing to enterprises as well. So how can we start getting those $100 million brands, those $200 million brands on Shopify using CartShare, and kind of make it the bog standard? Because like in my opinion, I see it's like buy with friends should have been a thing ages ago, right? It's such a fundamental thing. Everyone like people who are young are buying together anyway right now, and it's the user behavior that's becoming even more of the norm, and everyone's sharing everything with each other. But why can't they buy with each other? Like if you think about like teenagers, I'm a teenager. I see that like my friends' girlfriends or whatever, they'll be walking into the shopping center together, and they'll all walk into the same store, look, browse, buy together, see what they want to choose, etc. But online, everyone's buying off the same brand, but they're completely disconnected from each other. So it's like having a physical retail store and one person, all the same people who know each other are all buying their own things individually, and it just doesn't happen. So I think buy with friends will become the norm. I hope it will become the norm because I think it just makes sense, and it makes a lot of sense for merchants as well to offer it. And yeah, so the within 3 or 4 years, it starts to become like, okay, how can we start bringing this out to like the bigger brands, right? Because not be confined to the Shopify platform and try expanding it. And that also opens up a lot of investment opportunities for us as well. Because if you think about a VC firm or bigger investors, they want to see about how can this scale, not being directly confined to Shopify. Because Shopify is an interesting platform. They have lots of different things on their mind, and they move really fast. So the faster that we can kind of launch on Shopify, which we already are, and expand that really quickly through partnerships and make it the standard, the quicker we can kind of have a wider reach that's not just on Shopify, but some of those bigger merchants, and how can we integrate with kind of the Nikes, the ASOS, the Zalandos, all of those. And that's kind of, and then after that, it's like, maybe there's an interim in between there where it's like somebody approaches us like Shopify or some other, or Klarna or somebody like that, and goes, hey, let's fuel some fire on our product, and CartShare might be that fire or that fuel for some of these bigger companies, and maybe that's an approach as well. I think 5 years is very hard to look at, but I definitely know what we're doing for the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, it's a long, long time, especially nowadays. With things changing so fast. But you're absolutely right. I mean, culturally speaking, this is a generation that is used to sharing. We share cabs, we share apartments, we share everything. Why not sharing the shopping cart? It just
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense. This should have happened a long time ago. But again, the fact that you realize that proves the genius behind
thank you,
behind the idea. That's a testament to your genius, to both
thank
you and your co-founder genius. Now, one thing, Liam, I know it's a very difficult question to answer, but due to the way that you were expressing things, I have a question. If you are successful finally at the end of the day with CarShare, are you interested in riding the wave, cashing in and ditch out and go to the next adventure? Or do you see yourself like running CarShare for the next 10 to 20 years of your life? Because the reality is that if you strike gold so early, I mean, if you're successful so young, maybe you get tired of this, because it's
you.
your entire life committed to the same product. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I feel now like like in my head, like we started this 12 weeks ago, and in my head I think it in my head, right, like I'm insanely passionate about this problem. Like I'm just like over the last 12 weeks I've had hours and hours and hours to mull over why this isn't already a thing. And maybe it's like an iteration of CartShare that really sends it to the moon, or just something we hit right. And you'd be, like I've talked to like hundreds and hundreds of people my age, and just the reaction of especially women as well, who are the biggest spenders online. There's quite a clear reaction of like, why wasn't this already a thing? And I think once that's super clear, I think CartShare is something I can ride out for the next couple of years at least, and that I continue to kind of build. I think Klarna is a prime example. It was a problem that merchants didn't realize was affecting their consumers. Klarna proved that with Klarna they can increase conversion by 6 or 7% or something like that. and then from there they kind of grew over the next 10 years, and now they're just an absolute superstar. And they've built out their own platform, and I think there's a really interesting opportunity in 4 to 5 years from now where a platform play that can incorporate hundreds or thousands of merchants into kind of creating this social commerce platform for the Western world could look really interesting. And maybe that's through CartShare. So that's kind of my perspective at the moment. No intentions of leaving CartShare. I think this is a problem that needs to be solved, and I'm pretty adamant on solving it. So that, yeah.
Do you know if this situation, I mean, is there anything similar? Because the problem is going to be there. I'm sure the problem is going to be the same thing in the Asian world, like in India and China, which are huge markets. But I'm sure they have the same minimal amount for delivery.
Yep.
But is there anything similar to car share there?
Yeah. So there actually is. There's a lot of things.
There actually is.
There's a lot of things similar to CartShare in China specifically. So the owners of Temu, which are Pinduoduo,
Yeah.
they are a group buying platform, and they originally started as a group buying platform, right?
Oh,
But they have a different approach. They have an approach where you get 1,000 people you do not know whatsoever to agree to buy something at a certain price, and then it gets fulfilled out to all these individual customers. It's kind of what like Groupon did, right? You kind of they acquired customers in mass by basically getting anonymous people to agree to a certain price at a certain time, which is great. It works really well. But it doesn't really apply to D2C brands in the Western world. You want to take advantage of the fact that people are generally individualistic. One of the downfalls for bringing something like that, which has been tried to be brought to the Western world as well, the same kind of equivalent to Pinduoduo, but it's CartShare actually allows users to explore the store, right? Like everyone, like everyone's buying off whatever, like Lululemon, for example, right? And everyone exploring the store, and everyone has their own preferences. And I think that's a certain culture about the Western world and kind of how D2C brands have been structured. And we're trying to figure out how does CartShare sit into that existing kind of social dynamic. But it was definitely actually one of the reasons when we did like our original competitive analysis, we saw nothing like CartShare whatsoever in the Western world, which was very surprising. And then we saw like in China, it was already being done, but in a slightly different way. And then from that, we were like, okay. And we also saw that, for example, live shopping is something that's like just coming really fast to the Western world, and is becoming super popular as well, especially with TikTok Shop. Funny enough, one of the merchants that we work with, one of the bigger merchants that we will be piloting with, is also launching live shopping at the same time as CartShare. So that's another example of kind of our thought process into how this could align with the trends that merchants are trying to go towards. And I think social shopping is starting to become something really big in the Western world. And really,
Yeah, it's steadily growing. I mean, it's gonna be a big thing probably in 2025, 2026
for
because
sure.
it's been growing massively. Liam, we are close to the 30-minute mark, unfortunately, because this has been amazing. But I have to wrap it up, and I'm gonna do it with one single question. If you have to give only one piece of advice for an European merchant that is listening to the podcast and wants to be successful, which one will that be?
Um, be careful what you are investing in terms of your AI tools and tech. Make sure it makes sense, but mainly figure out your community, figure out your product, and figure out your customer, and get data from those touch points instead of trying to figure out what's the new best cool tool. But a really cool new tool that you should use is CartShare. So that's different. But that's my piece of advice. Yeah.